Welcome back to the Pigskins and Politics podcast. It's time for some politics. So I'm going to start by introducing my new co-host. For those of you who did not listen to the football episode and just join in for the politics, this guy, Will Southard, who suddenly grew a long mullet and decided to really get dressed up for our episode. We've decided to give in to his demands and make him co-host. So, Will, just had a long football talk, but you clearly look ready to talk politics. Are you ready to jump in?
Just celebrating the last free day of our democracy, Brian. It's a sad day for America. Need to come on here and talk about it.
Nice Tool shirt, by the way. You know.
Yeah. See, I fight the power. I am the power. see what I'm saying?
It's a nice duality you got going on there, Will.
That's right.
Welcome as always to the PPP.
Right. Just don't say anything too long, or I'll get some barbecued flavored confusion going on my end of my end of the mic.
I will keep the words nice and short for you. I want to make sure that you stay tuned in for the whole episode.
Right.
I do want to make another introduction. Once again, for those who did not tune into the NFL episode, we have a producer. So a shout out to Anthony Wayner, who is now the producer of the PPP. Super excited to have him on board, and as the show continues to grow, he's going to be a big part of that. And finally, our special guest for the week, the host of the State of Today podcast that I was happily a guest on last week, Khalil Gillon. Khalil, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good.
Good. You ready to talk some politics? You all excited?
Yep. This is a monumental moment in American politics.
In more ways than one, absolutely. But here's
every 4 years.
Every 4 years. Never been done before, except for 4 years ago. But here's what we do. So, Khalil, you're new to the show. A lot of our fans will actually listen straight through from the NFL episode to the politics episode, and we just had about an hour and 45 of NFL talk. So we're very nice people. We don't want to throw them into the fire after talking so much football to expect them to just go smack dab right into some politics talk. That's just crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a palate cleanser, which should be interesting with Will's garb this week, because you do not look like the type of person who even knows what a palate cleanser is. But we'll get to that in a second. So
that's when they lay out a lot of food, and you can just pick what you want.
There you go. There you go. This will be the most interesting palate cleanser, simply because of what you're wearing on your head, Will. But let's jump into it. So
wait, I just read the podcast. Really? That's what we're going to talk about?
Oh, yeah. So,
wow.
So
all right.
Will's decided to jump ahead and read the notes. It's nice to know that you can read, Will, so we appreciate that. So here's what we're going to do for our palate cleanser this week. Most of the time, I try to get the ideas from our special guests, and this was no different. I was speaking to Khalil, trying to get an idea of what we can do as an off-topic, something to talk about to separate the NFL from the politics. And it came up in our conversation that Khalil, who is 19 years old and a college student at LSU, so, I don't even know what the generation is now, Z. It's like past millennial.
Yeah,
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
So he's obviously a modern
the Zoomers.
teenagers.
One of them letters.
But he is a huge fan of Tina Turner. Yeah, that Tina Turner.
I am.
So I want to hear about that first. Tell me how that came to be first, and the link, about your fandom. Tell us about how much you love Tina.
Well, now I'm like a super fan, like you said. It started.
She's still alive.
Time. Yeah, she
That's
is.
a good question.
She is.
That's a good starting point. Is she still alive? Is she still with Bobby?
I think she's I think she's like 82 or something.
Wow.
I think that's what she is. Yeah.
I would have mixed her up with Gloria Estefan. Like the same people in my brain.
One is black and one is Hispanic. What are you talking about?
Whatever,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, they
It's
are.
all the famous female vocalists.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, once upon a time, a few years ago, which is a long time in my lifespan because I'm only 19.
Percentage-wise, for sure.
Yeah. The movie What's Love Gotta Do With It would come on TV, like VH1, BET and stuff. And of course, I didn't know what I was watching, but my grandma would have it on watching What's Love Gotta Do. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm looking at it. And I was actually scared of the movie. Like, well, not the stuff. I know there's a lot of stuff in it that a kid would be kind of
Horror
scared
section.
Yeah, but the end of it, when her real face comes out, I was like, oh, I was like
Traumatized.
It's like, I was traumatized. I didn't know. I don't know. I don't know if I thought that. I really used to have nightmares. Like I didn't even want to watch the movie when the movie would come on, and the ending part when she would come out, Angela Bassett would go like, and she would come out, and Tina Turner would come out, and it'll be really her. I was like, what is wrong with her? I can't, like, what is wrong? I don't know what was wrong with my brain to make me think that there was like, that made me so traumatized of that movie of Tina Turner, the likeness of Tina Turner, the look of Tina Turner. But later on, a few years later, I started listening to music. I listened to one song, and that was "What's Love Gotta Do with It," a famous track. And then I was like, oh, this actually sounds pretty good. So then I kept listening to the next one and the next one and the next one, learning all of the songs, and I just now I'm a super fan. And I like her story, it's like a phoenix rising from the ashes kind of thing, restarting, comeback queen kind of thing, that kind of stuff, from like a rough start up to now she's
My Heart Will Go On is just a classic.
That's Celine Dion. Do you even know who Tina Turner is?
I think so.
I just know her from, she had the thing with Bobby Brown, right? Wasn't there like a domestic, like Bobby Brown domestic? Am I?
Oh no, that's Whitney.
Oh, that was Whitney.
Oh my God, bro!
That's Whitney.
Everybody who's listening to this show is just like, I gotta turn it off.
Ike Turner. Tina and Ike. Yeah, now I remember.
Yeah, Ike and Tina.
Yeah,
Tina and
from
Ike.
last week.
This show's called Two Idiots and a Cultured Guy.
I mean, last week, we obviously knew nothing about Canada, and that didn't seem to hurt. We got a lot of Canadian listeners, so as long as we're upfront about our lack of knowledge.
Well, we're gonna get destroyed in the comments by somebody who's just like, the fact that I'm like, well, isn't she the chick that puts out the bad Christmas album every year? They're like, nope.
I think that's Mariah Carey. No, I don't.
Yeah, it was Mariah. Yeah.
Well, that I find that supremely fascinating. I was a big Michael Jackson fan as a kid. I don't know, just huge MJ, loved to dance with the whole thing. Obviously, that was before we found out that he was a pedophile, but I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's really cool.
Debatable.
So, do you who's your favorite modern? Like, who do you listen to besides, old school Tina? Who do you listen to for music?
I don't really listen to any.
You're like one of those 19-year-olds that's going on 40.
Yeah, I guess you could say.
He's a political journalism major. He's got a politics podcast at 19.
God,
he loves
bro.
Tina Turner. Yeah, this guy, he's more mature than us.
Do you want this beanie? I can send it down. Send it down to the bayou.
He's clearly more mature than you, at least, Will. Obviously,
Clearly.
For anyone watching on.
Clearly.
So you know what? I guess
can't.
I guess I should describe this because yes, we're recording on video. We'll be on YouTube, but Will has decided, and he didn't tell us he was going to do this. In between the NFL and the politics episode, came back with a giant curly-haired, achy breaky heart type mullet.
This is my real mullet. What are you talking about?
With some American flag beanie and some big round like John Lennon type glasses, with a Tool T-shirt. Naturally,
that's right. Fight the power. The power.
That's,
Yes.
It's such a conundrum.
That's right.
I don't know if I'm cleansed, but I don't.
I feel really cleansed.
I'm sure you do. This has been a very interesting palate cleanser, but
Khalil's questioning his life decisions for the next 2 hours.
Khalil's like, can I back out of this podcast? I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Well, we're as cleansed as we're going to be, I guess. So let's go ahead and jump into talking about some politics. First, just a little bit of news. Obviously, last week was dominated in our conversation by the Capitol riots. But despite all of that, Biden is still due to be inaugurated tomorrow. We're recording this on Tuesday night as the 46th President of the United States at noon, which means that today was the last full day for President Donald Trump as in office. And then he's got, 12 hours from midnight to noon tomorrow. So a couple things with regards to, Trump's status right now. Mitch McConnell.
Wait, before you get into that.
Okay.
Before you get into that. The only thing that matters for my boy Joe is he going to pardon Joe Exotic? That's the only thing that matters. Let's be honest. Like, okay, here's the thing, right? Half the country.
By the way, you look like you could be on Joe Exotic right now. You got that look. You're fit.
Listen,
are you auditioning for Joe Exotic season 2? I think.
Listen, that bitch Carol Baskin is in my garage right now. But let's be like the evidence, all the evidence points to Joe Exotic definitely like commissioning a murder, right? Like for sure. Like they said it was beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
But there would be like 95% of the country, if he pardoned Joe Exotic, would be like, thank God, the one thing he did that I can really get behind. Like, it's so weird. You know, like, I mean, obviously Khalil's not behind it, but like, tell me though, like, think outside yourself for a second and tell me what percentage of the country would be elated if Trump pardoned Joe Exotic. A high amount.
Let's start with Khalil. Did you watch Tiger King on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay, you at least know what we're talking about. Good.
Wait, which part was your favorite? Was it the part where he used the expired hamburger meat to make his pizza restaurant, or the part where his like coworker and friend gets mauled by a tiger and his first response is to don an EMS bomber jacket?
Well, the entire show was like a hoot. The entire show, but
you are 40.
That's what I was just thinking. He used the word hoot. He is he's more mature than us.
Yeah. I said hoot, yeah. But believe it or not, I am a Carol Baskin sympathizer. You know, she gets a bad rap. You know, people say she killed her husband. Where's the proof? Okay,
it's in the tiger turd. It's like it's petrifying in the corner.
This episode is so off the rails
somewhere.
I don't think we can.
All right, let's bring it back to center.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
That's,
right.
I think
that's the palate cleanser.
That was the difference. We were not fully cleansed.
The palate cleanser was Keller Baskin's husband.
Correct. Now I feel cleansed. We needed that extra Tiger King reference to get us ready for what we're about to talk about. So, Mitch McConnell. It feels weird to go from Carol Baskin to Mitch McConnell, but this is the world we're living in. Still considering the impeachment vote. Obviously, the Senate has not voted yet. They're supposed to come back. They were supposed to come back this week, actually, to consider doing that. He said
John Roberts might preside over it.
Well, yeah, which is suddenly he's
might recuse himself. I saw that too. He might decide not to.
He just doesn't want a piece of it.
Why would he?
He might for a couple reasons. I guess. One of them would be his interpretation of the law that talks about presiding over trials of ex-presidents. Apparently, the Constitution is pretty unclear in that scenario on what happens, like if you're used to be a president and you're not anymore. So it might just be if he interprets the law to say that's not what I think, then he could just say I'm not going to do it. I'm out.
And nobody's ever impeached a past president. It's like, what's the point? But this is where we find ourselves. I will say this. So Mitch McConnell said that the mob that assaulted the Capitol, this is a quote, was provoked by the president. We talked about last week that McConnell is being a lot more forward. I think, Khalil, we even talked about it on your podcast as well, that he's feeling more emboldened to actually speak out where he hasn't for years.
Not anymore.
Now that he has no, there's not a lot of power left for, and Trump cost them the House, the Senate, everything.
Yeah.
Another thing, so Trump put out a farewell video today. I watched the whole 20 minutes because why?
What platform did he put it out on?
It was on YouTube.
It was on what's that platform where you steal the songs from back in the day that Metallica hated?
Napster?
Napster. Is that what he put it out on? It's like the only option he has left.
Well, that's true. I didn't think yet. So apparently YouTube has not blocked him yet. I wasn't even thinking that I wasn't watching it on Twitter or anywhere else. So yes, he put it on from the White House account on YouTube. This is one of the most important quotes from it. He said, it was actually very conciliatory. He never mentioned Biden's name, but he did say basically good luck to the new administration. He emphasized the word luck. And then he said, the movement that we started is only just beginning.
It's just beginning. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So I want to just have a discussion about what is it? So 2024 or what else could happen sooner than that? What are the possibilities of some sort of event during the inauguration tomorrow? Like, we didn't predict anything would happen to the Capitol.
Apparently, so I got a buddy that works in D.C. Apparently, D.C. is locked down.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get into D.C. unless you are, like, a resident.
So they called in, 20,000 National Guard troops from all across the country.
Which is pretty smart, to be honest.
I want to chime in. One of my people from Louisiana, General Honore, is going to be in charge of the National Guard troops from Louisiana.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Yeah, Russell Honore. Yeah.
Nice. There you go. So what are you guys' thoughts? You think the security is going to be enough? I saw that at least 12 National Guard people had their access revoked, 2 of them because they were tied to extremist groups. So do you think there could be a possibility of an insider job, or is it just,
Oh, I think it's hyped up because of the Capitol riots that happened recently. But I think it's going to be just a regular inaugural. Well, not regular, but it's going to be a quite uneventful inauguration. Trump is going to be all the way where
in Florida,
Fort Andrews. He's going to be having his celebration. So
I mean, that's just very Terrell Owens of Trump to be like, here's the party, I'm going to go do my own thing. Like,
there's a football
if you don't
reference
care
for
about
you
that
politics
thing,
listeners.
Come have my own like thing. Like, is he actually throwing a party during the inauguration for his own supporters?
Yeah, it's
extremely a Trump move.
And stuff. Yeah.
What a power move. Anyway, but which aligns, obviously. What was I going to say? You know what's surprising about this whole riot thing is it's been the MO the entire Trump presidency, and Anthony keeps popping on and off, so I'd love to get his take, or Trump supporters' take, other than me, obviously. But like, the MO is deny until it becomes truth, right? And also just spout whatever and repeat it and hammer it home until it becomes truth. And after the riots, they started saying that wasn't really Trump, that wasn't Republicans, that was Antifa, right? Dude, there are a surprising amount of people that actually believe that. Like, I have some friends that are Trump supporters, obviously, and I know a lot of Trump supporters, and curious what Anthony has to say about this one. But like, really? Like, the dude carrying the freaking Nancy Pelosi's lectern has a thing that says Trump on his forehead, and apparently he's a picky eater, right? Like, the dude that's kicked up back on Pelosi's desk with his boots up, like, look at him, dude. Is that an Antifa guy? Like, but there are a lot of people that are like, no way, that wasn't reality, couldn't have been, you know what I mean? Like,
so I was very clear on last week's episode that there were plenty of Trump supporters who attended his rally who did not rush the Capitol. And so we're not saying all Trump supporters are terrorists. That's not what we're saying at all. What Will's saying is, it doesn't matter what supporter you are. Biden supporters, if they're rushing the Capitol, if they're basically trying to incite an insurrection, they're crossing the line. They're committing criminal behavior.
What I'm saying is,
I'm going to come to your Antifa thing. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like that. Like.
By the way, I'm very disappointed you took off the wig, and now it's like I don't want to look at you.
I'm very hot. I don't know how people wear hair like that, because like, I'm physically uncomfortable with that stupid thing on.
But yeah, so that 100%, they have every right to be there. They have every right to protest. They have every right to go to a rally. But there was a certain group of a fair amount of them that chose not to stay back, and some did, and that's good, right? They said, you know what, I support my guy. I want Trump. Maybe I have feelings about how the election went down, but I'm not going to trespass. I'm not going to break and enter. I'm not going to endanger the lives of other Americans. But what Will was saying is actually, so clearly we all agree that was wrong, that people should not rush the Capitol. People died. But certain Trump supporters said that it was not Trump supporters who rushed the Capitol, that there was Antifa was infiltrated them, that it was people who were pretending to be Trump supporters. And so Will's saying clearly the look of these people were not Antifa. Antifa, by the way.
I'm just saying, it's just more just lies that like, they're just like, you talked in our NFL episode, we talked about the hallmark of a good leader is taking responsibility, right? 0 people in that administration have ever taken responsibility for anything, ever. The only people that have are like people that are who's the Marine general? This is gonna kill me.
Yeah, you're the vet here.
Mattis, yeah. Who I love, right? Mattis, yeah. Those kind of people have, but I mean, it's like the Antifa thing was just kind of like, that's what you're gonna go out on, like that's what you're gonna choose.
I want to hear from Khalil, and then Anthony, because Khalil's been waiting patiently. We had him park his opinion, so
what? Yeah, he threw in the all Trump supporters are terrorists line, and then he.
Please expand.
No,
That's
I'll
not
say,
what you said?
wait, no.
Okay, all right.
Well, the people that stormed the Capitol, of course, not all Trump supporters
Okay.
are terrorists. Just like how not all
Clarified.
Black Lives Matters
Yep.
protesters are terrorists. But when we look up the definition of terrorism, right? It says the unlawful use of force and violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof, in furtherance of political or social objectives. When we look at with those people that rioted, that stormed the Capitol, they were clearly trying to, there was an objective there, and they were causing destruction at a federal building. And it doesn't have to be a federal building, but they were causing destruction there to get some kind of point across, which you see that they had something else saying hang Pence, and if they had called Nancy, who knows what they would have done, right?
She's 80, hopefully nothing too illicit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I can only see that as, a form of terrorism, domestic terrorism, because of, and 5 people died there, their goal was to try to send a message. Protesting is okay. Protesting is always okay. But when it goes to the next step, right, where you're, going in.
The other thing too is, like, you talk about ownership and accountability, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Trump could have easily said, and again, we have just established not all Trump supporters are terrorists. And I said in the last podcast, there are a lot of good Republicans, just like there are a lot of good Democrats that just have differing ideals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He could have come out and said, hey, the majority of my supporters and the majority of Republicans, great people, the people who stormed the Capitol today, like, that is not support. You know what I mean? Like, you do not represent me. You don't represent blah, blah, blah. That is 180 degrees from what he did. Right? Like, he could have, and like, when we talk about how many Trump supporters are in the country, it's a freaking lot, like 70 million.
Well, yeah.
There weren't 70 million people in the Capitol, right? How many were there? A couple thousand?
Few. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, you're pissing off like this many people, really,
right.
And that would have been the high road, and I think that would have been a really good thing for him to do, but he absolutely didn't do it. And that's the other part of it. I mean, he didn't have to, like, disavow his whole fan base.
Right. It's just the people, just the extremists, clearly the extremists who crossed the line.
There are people that hijack the hell out of Black Lives Matter too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just the words. I hate hashtags, right? And, like, defund the police and a lot of these things, and we talked about this a little bit, that are solid ideas if you kind of give them a chance and really hear them out. But just the same as you talked about, Anthony, I mean, like, the majority of people that really believe in what the heart of Black Lives Matter means are not out, like, stealing Nikes and burning buildings and hurting people and doing things like that, So,
and those things are counterintuitive, whether it was the Trump supporters who rushed or the few people with Black Lives Matter who did do vandalism. That hurts the actual cause. Like, no, but that's right on either side. Doesn't matter what side you're on. Yeah. All right. So there is a topic that I've actually been wanting to talk about for a few weeks now. And because a lot of stuff has been happening in our country, it keeps getting pushed off. But Khalil's on. I think this was a great opportunity to discuss this topic. And I haven't prepped either of you guys for what exactly I mean by this. So I was listening to a politics podcast a few weeks back. And this was not exactly what they were discussing, but something came to me that made me phrase the question, because everybody has asked since 2016, how did it happen? Trump, who was not even a favorite in his party before the Republican primaries back in 2015, you would ask. There's tons of polls when he first ran, and he was polling at like 2%, right? So where does he come out of nowhere, and then how does he actually beat the presumptive favorite? And all the polling is saying Hillary. So there's been questions for 4 years of what actually led to Trump rising to power. And so I had a question in my head, like, did President Barack Obama, did he cause Trump to rise to power? But here's where I'm going with this. And I'm not going the racial angle, but I want to hear from you guys on that as well. But this is not the angle I'm taking. The angle I'm taking is me specifically. I was not into politics until 2008. I just could care less. I was in my 20s, like Anthony, and soon to be.
We were in a band together.
That's right. I was that's where I know Will from. We were in a band, rocking out, having fun. Minus the mullet that Will was sporting. But I just wasn't into politics. And then Obama came along, and I was just really inspired, specifically by the way that he seemed to be, and this is going to appeal. This Trump supporters are going to understand this. He seemed to be not as much of a politician. He seemed to be an outside, like he was a freshman senator. He had only been in office for a few years. He was new to the politics. He wasn't some lifelong Democrat. He wasn't a Joe Biden who's been in, Congress for 40-something years. This was someone new. He had this thing called the audacity of hope. He wanted to change Washington. Does that sound familiar? He wanted to kind of come in there and change. And there was, after the Bush administration and after just all the problems that happened in the 2000 election, and there was just so much negativity around politics. And as we see now, the Republican Democrat got more and more divided. It didn't used to be so divided. So it got more and more divided. So everybody was kind of sick of that. So I'm like, here comes a guy who's going to come and change Washington. Now, this is not a referendum on his presidency. I actually think he was a very good president. But what it is a referendum on is he got in there, and at the end of his 8 years, I didn't feel like Washington was changed, right? I didn't feel like so. My point is, and I'll turn it over to you guys, and I want to hear from Khalil first this time. Did having that hope, having that audacity, inspiring people like me to get into politics and say that this guy can come and change the system, and then 8 years later, despite his best efforts, the system is not only not changed, it's even worse. So then you get even more of an outsider coming in, a guy who was a reality TV star and runs a bunch of is a real estate mogul from New York. Oh, he's even more of an outsider. Maybe not. Maybe now this guy can, because clearly this guy didn't. So that's my question to you. I'll start with you, Khalil. Do you think there is legitimacy there to the fact that he got Obama got people to believe in him as an outsider, as somebody who was going to change Washington, D.C., and that didn't happen? Some of those people on the fringe then ended up going toward Trump in 2016.
Well, I definitely think.
I think you were 11.
I was going to say, I know you were.
Obama ran for
that was 12 years ago,
presidency.
so he was like 7. But please, I think he's more mature than all of us here. I'm going to trust his word.
I'm not saying that. That's just made a joke.
But I think it's more of. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with some aspects. I think it's more of Democrats in general, and this like insider kind of thing, right? Because Hillary, you could see she was an integral part of the Obama administration, right? And she was Donald Trump's opponent in 2016, and
she's as uninsideristic. I mean, she is the epitome of the establishment, for better or for worse. Not a knock on her personally, but she is the characterization of the establishment.
Yeah. And I would say Hillary, I put more of the blame, I guess you could say, on Trump rising to power, on I guess you could say Hillary and Obama going back to this notion of, we want an outsider. We want someone that's truly an outsider, someone that's outspoken, not someone that just goes and just talks,
toes the party line,
and all kind of stuff like that. And when Trump came out the door, he just started talking, just saying whatever was on his mind. I don't know if it was calculated or maybe he was just. I think it was probably calculated.
I actually don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
I used to think that. Now I don't.
You just think he just like, I mean,
he just he thinks
too,
he says what he thinks. I think it's that simple.
Yeah, and that is a stark change. That is a stark juxtaposition from Hillary Clinton and Obama, most definitely. So I would probably say that Obama and Hillary, that entire administration, really brought about the rise of Trumpism, of this kind of populism, I should say.
Right.
I mean, I think that from what I saw, or my vantage point anyway, there are a lot of people in this country that for a long time, it's trending towards leftist things, right? Like it's not cool to be racist, right? It's not cool to not, be diverse as a company. It's not cool to discriminate against LBGT, right? And it still isn't. But like what you had was then Trump comes along, and there are a lot of people in this country that like, as a politician, for somebody to be presidential, right? Like what does that mean? Well, it could mean a lot of things, but one of the things it definitely means is you're not like Joe every guy, right? Like you don't speak like that. You kind of take a different professionalism about yourself. And when Trump just got up there and he made a joke about like the size of his of his weenus compared to his fingers in a debate. He did. Remember when he was talking about Marco Rubio and he's like, "There's no problem," and like I remember watching that and going, "Oh my God!" Like that's like me, bro.
Yeah.
That's like me being up there and making jokes, right? And like, so you can say a lot about that, but there are a lot of people that just resonated with Trump, right? And one of the things, and again, I'm not saying that Republicans or Trump supporters are racist. I'm not saying that at all. But if you're a racist, you're probably a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that like, have these feelings about immigrants, about, nationalism, about America, and for a long time, that's not cool. Like you can't just say those things, right? With our climate. You see Trump and you see yourself in that emboldens you, and I think there are a lot of people, and again, not all of it is racist. I want to be very clear there, but like, people feel a certain way about immigrants, about healthcare, about homeless, about all these things that divide the left and the right. Trump gave a platform to those people to say like, no, damn it, like these are my views and I'm not going to apologize for them. So did audacity of hope cause that? I mean, I reading, I'm well into Obama's second book, his memoir, and one of his things that he talks about is, he realized when he got in there how insanely difficult if you don't have like, when you have two parties, is actually getting things done that are like legitimately like, partisan, like almost all partisan. The fact that he got Obamacare passed, he had to give up a fair amount of things to get that passed, but the fact that he got it passed at all is amazing. So now we're in COVID and these deals are happening. So I realize that I'm talking a lot. I don't think that it was as much the fact that people were tired of Obama. I will say this though. So I did read Michael Cohen's book, and in that book, Michael Cohen says that Obama specifically caused Trump to run. Like Trump despised Obama.
Yeah,
He called him Hussein. He every time that he mentioned Obama, he said Barack Hussein Obama. He would mispronounce his name. The birtherism thing, like he just thought that Obama was just awful, and that inspired Trump to run. So whether or not, Obama's political climate in America facilitated Trump, I think it's a complex question, but I do for sure think that Obama himself inspired in Trump finally to run. And then when he did, then I think you saw the secondary effects of people just going like, hell, I'll vote for that guy. Why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think
why
the
not?
other aspect that I didn't mention was that I also was then wondering how he won in 2016 and then lost so decisively in 2020. I think that was the part of it where I was trying to wonder out, because you can't
Decisively.
but he won. He lost by 8 million votes. So
I mean, not according to half the people in the country.
All right. Well, anyway, that's not the main point. My main point is that you can't just chalk it up to racism, because what did 8 million people just decide in the last 4 years that they're not racist? It's not like that's not.
Yeah, no.
But,
a lot of
no,
middle of the
there's a
road
lot
people
of,
for sure.
I have Democrat friends who will say, oh, it's just because the racists voted for Trump. Like clearly that's not the case, because if that's not the case, so many people would not have switched back to voted for Democrat this time. So my question was, well, what caused them to leave the Democratic Party in 2016 but come back in 2020? And the thought I could think was that there was just people who were just fed up with politics in general. And I've spoken to people who voted for Trump who maybe
and the Clintons, bro,
and that was the thing. It was a combination of not a great candidate as far as name recognition, as far as history in politics, mixed with just being fed up with politics in general. You believed in Obama, you still liked him, but at the end, it was still politics as usual. Oh, here comes this guy who's just way off base. Let me throw a dart and see. So throw some spaghetti at the wall with this Trump guy and see what happens.
I mean, I think as we wind down the Trump presidency, hopefully the effing last one. I think it's important for the people that listen to this show, right, and that haven't turned it off yet, thinking that we're bleeding heart liberals who are absolutely
Hey, our
biased.
producer's a Trump supporter, so
Yeah. He has done some good things. Like, I think, one of the things that is not on our thing here because, like, it just doesn't come to mind. But, like, it hasn't been just, okay, let me say this. Yes, overall, colossal failure. Probably the worst president in American history. That's my personal opinion. However, every single decision he has made and things that he have done has not been all bad. There has been some good things there and some things that we could probably learn from.
Well,
it's
clearly
never
economical, able to steer. The economy was already on its way up. Let's be clear with.
I mean, he had the balls to kill Soleimani. Let's be honest. I mean, he killed Soleimani, which... I mean, if Iran wants you arrested, like I saw that Iran like petitioned Interpol or whoever to like arrest Trump on like terrorism charges for killing like if Iran wants you dead, whatever you did was probably the right thing. Let's be honest.
Touché.
So the executive orders on drugs, whether they had an effect or not, had a good thing. And so there's a lot of stuff there. I'm sure we're gonna get comments too. I welcome them. Like, if you have, like, a list of, like, the best Trump stuff that you think that Trump has done,
email them to pigskinsandpolitics@gmail.com. Right. Or, hit us up on Twitter. Khalil, any last thoughts on this?
Well, I will say this. Actually, never mind. We could.
No.
This is a no holds barred, bro.
What we do here. We say what's on our mind for better or worse.
I just forgot what it. I
brought up Trump's wiener joke. You feel free to say whatever you want.
I'm trying to remember what I was just thinking of, and then I got lost in listening. So
you were picturing Will and his mullet, weren't you? Yeah, Will and his mullet.
Think about it while we discuss this. So, what do you think? I mean, Biden gets inaugurated tomorrow, like hopefully. Without much issue. First 100 days, what does he need to do policy-wise and also tone-wise? Because we can't. I mean, if we're going to... Oh, okay, he raised his hand.
And I want to save those points maybe for next week, so let's hear what Khalil has to say.
I actually remember now. I actually remember when you spoke about inauguration. So, Trump, right? I think really... this is in response to your comment, Brian, about what really motivated voters in 2020 to like say, "Oh no, we're not doing Trump we're not voting for Trump anymore," right? And I think the emergence of COVID really that really hit the nail in the coffin, but
we'll accept it.
Judges, we'll take it.
And I'll say because many people
for senior citizens for sure.
Yeah, and many people that lost their jobs and stuff, many people were politically apathetic to it all. But once they couldn't pay their bills, once they couldn't buy food, once all of these things that made them feel as though, and them thinking that Trump isn't really doing anything. Trump, that for the last year, he was saying, this is going to go away by this time, and this is going to go, and not really taking it as seriously as we would want the president to take
DeSantis did.
Yeah. And so I think that really motivated a lot of people to say, we're done with this unconventional politician. It's time for us to go back to order, where we can where the politicians will take stuff seriously, where the president will take stuff seriously.
Old, reliable, safe Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing, Joe. Like, dude, is like Biden is not like. I'm not excited about a Biden presidency.
I
mean, he's old as hell. Like, his mind is maybe 80% there, if But I mean, God, he sounds presidential. He's actually going to do some things, take some measures. Climate change. Like, he's not like super left. You know, like, I mean, if I'm a
Yeah, he's been a moderate his
like
whole life.
we could have
Yeah.
let's talk. I mean, let's be honest. We could have elected Bernie Sanders. Then, wow, like I mean, there would have been it's like, the waves kind of go like this in the political climate, left and right a little bit. It would have been like a hard swing right for Trump, and then a hard swing left for Bernie,
Like a roller coaster.
and then we're gonna overcorrect into the wall for the Republicans in 4 years if we elected Bernie.
So I want to wrap.
But we
it up.
didn't do
I
that.
want to wrap it up here because assuming that the inauguration goes through okay tomorrow, on next week's episode, I do want to dive into Biden's agenda once he's president, and we can talk a little bit more about whether it's realistic, what he does. I want to talk about him perhaps clashing with the far left of the Democratic Party.
How his first week has been.
We'll have hopefully something to break down, but we are coming up on time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank my co-host Will and all his mulleted glory for the first half of the podcast anyway. Khalil Gillon, thank you so much for coming on. Make sure to check out his politics podcast, The State of Today. I was a guest on the last episode. I don't know if there's been one since then, but if you want to hear me go on.
No, not yet.
Yeah, so you
Khalil, does it burn your eyeballs to have to stare at this Tim Tebow jersey for a solid 45 minutes?
He's not a football fan, so he doesn't care.
It should.
I'm only a football fan whenever my teams win. That's the only time I'm a football fan.
Oh, well, you had a good year last year. I
bandwagon.
know nobody's
Yeah.
feeling sorry for you.
He had the Joe Burrow magical season, so he gets to enjoy that.
Kyle Trask
Yeah.
had a better season statistically.
Okay, all right. You're talking to a political journalism major, and you're trying to throw out Florida Gator stats.
Listen. Everybody in America should know who Kyle Trask is.
All right. Well, we'll find out at the NFL draft. So thanks again to our brand new producer Anthony, doing a fantastic job already. Thank you for listening. If you listen to the NFL and then the politics, you're the trooper. Really appreciate you sticking around for both. If you're just here for the politics, I want to do one shout out to our new Canadian listeners. So it's not surprising, we had a Canadian guest last week, and it got a huge surge in Canadian listeners. So if you decided to stick with us,
If you're Canadian, hop on.
yes, please, because now we know that Moosehead is the beer to drink and not Molson or Labatt Blue. And we know.
Oh, is it
we
really?
know about what that's what Sean said, and we know more about hockey
okay.
than we did before. So thank you to the Canadian listeners. We have a good section of UK listeners as well. We have a French listener from Paris who
A French guy?
I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I'm not going to judge, but there's somebody who
That's
checks
funny.
in. We got Australia, we got China, we got all different countries listening to the PPP. Really appreciate you. Please tell your friends, subscribe, keep leaving those 5-star reviews, and we'll see you next week on the PPP.